Amy, welcome.
Thank you so much, Ben. I
Okay,
appreciate it.
please.
And thank you, Roger, for having me. It's so great to be with all of you today. What a beautiful setting. I'm really excited to be here. So, as Ben said, I'm Amy Kelly. I'm the COO for S2K Financial. I'll give you a little background about our organization. I'm ready for that first slide. Oh, yay! Okay, great. So S2K, we are a managing broker dealer, and essentially what that means is that our organization we do due diligence on offerings that we can bring to the investing consumers. Everything on our platform is for accredited investors only. Thank you, Ben, for that definition previously for our group here today. The only additional definition I would add to the accredited investor definition, just in the event that it comes up for you in your businesses, is it also includes Series 7 FINRA registered representatives. So if you have a securities license Series 7, like myself, you are considered, you fall into that accredited investor definition. And that's fairly recent. I don't remember how many years it's been like that, but one of the things that we see in our space is that very often the financial professionals that we work with, they like to invest in the same vehicles that their clients invest in so that they have the same experience, whether it's seeing the investor portal or seeing the investor updates and things like that. So just wanted to share that with you. So we do not deal necessarily directly, we deal with financial advisors and their centers of influence, which a big part of that businesses, CPAs, enrolled agents, accounting, and Roger and I go back long time. We've known each other a very long time. We've worked together quite a bit, and Roger has been a tax advisor to us at S2K throughout our journey because our founder, Steve Cantor with a K, he came from a very long career, over 35 years on Wall Street. He was an investment banker. He was global head of securities at Credit Suisse. He was one of the co-founders of Cantor Commercial Real Estate with a C, that's CCRE, coincidentally. He took over 100 companies public, most of those being REITs, but he came from that institutional side of the world. And whenever he lifted up the hood about 11, 12 years ago and saw what was available to mom and pop investor on Main Street, he was astonished and couldn't believe like the lack of investment vehicles that were available to Main Street, the lack of real institutional sponsors, but mainly and most importantly, I would say, the lack of transparency and alignment of interest available to the investing public. Whereas on the institutional side, where minimum investments are 10 to 20 to $25 million, depending on the investment vehicle, on our side, minimum investments anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000, depending on the investment vehicle you are investing in. And in many cases, what was available to Main Street, there wasn't really any alignment of interest. So one of the mandates at S2K, and I've been here for almost 10 years since the inception of our firm, and one of the reasons and the mission behind starting this company was that Steve wanted to bring institutional structures, which means sponsors get paid when they perform. They do not get paid ahead of the investor, and they have skin in the game and they write checks. And so if we're able to bring investment solutions that solve for the tax codes and can partner with accountants and CPAs, enrolled agents, with their financial advisors to help you like solve for, okay, what's missing? Right? You've got all of this brilliance coming out of Roger. I'm always amazed whenever I come to his tax seminars and get all this really great detail. And you all have you're bombarded with it, right? Like Q4 is the time, well, Q4 post October 15th, obviously, is the time to spend with educating and spending time with accountants because you've got all of these tax codes, right? Just bombarding you, and they're changing constantly, so you have to understand them. So what we bring to you all is education and some tax solutions available to investors. So what I'm going to go through today, and let's just go on to the next slide. The first thing I'm going to do, you can go to the agenda slide if you don't mind, is there's important risk factors, obviously, with every investment and disclosures. The private placement memorandum for everything I'm talking about today, each of the different offerings have their own private placement memorandums. We call those PPMs. You're probably familiar with that. They're available on our website. It's www.s2kco.com. And so make sure you're familiar with those. And then we'll just fast forward to that agenda slide. I'm going to do some education. So this will not include product at all, just comparing tax strategies. But each of the slides that you see up here, we have filed all of these with FINRA. That is our governing board through the financial services industry. And so all of this is available for you to further go back and look at as a resource, but also available to any of your clients that you think might be interested. These are all LLCs, taxed as partnerships. They are 506C as in Charlie, so that means that we can do general solicitation. So we're covered from that standpoint, from a regulatory standpoint. So let's start with comparing tax deferral strategies. Now, let's go on to the next slide. These are all event driven. These three: 1031 exchanges, DSTs, and opportunity zones. Roth conversions, which I'm going to talk about as I close out my presentations today, which I'll cover at the end, doesn't require, an event. Like, you don't have to sell real estate to qualify for that. And opportunity zones, as we'll talk a little bit deeper on, isn't necessarily just real estate. Okay, we're going to go on to the next slide. 1031 exchanges. I'm sorry, go back one. So 1031 exchanges. How many of you are familiar with the 1031 exchange tax code? So 1031 exchanges and DSTs are very similar. DSTs follow the 1031 code. So a 1031 exchange, obviously it's a sale of real estate, investment property. You have to do a like-kind exchange of same equity amount. Your debt has to match. You have to work with a qualified intermediary and identify you're going to invest in within 45 days. And then you have to actually complete that investment within 180 days. Okay. 1031 exchanges, you are typically the landlord. You're an active manager, okay? It helps you to avoid paying the capital gains from selling real estate that appreciated. When you go into a like-kind exchange, you obviously avoid paying that capital gains. Let's go on to the next slide where we say, what are Delaware statutory trusts? I'm going to skip this one. See, I'm already skipping slides, Ben. As I mentioned, similar, it's using the same 1031 exchange tax code. However, now you've converted yourself from being the landlord, dealing with the three terrible T's of being a landlord: tenants, toilets, and trash. And now you're a passive manager, because now you're in a pool of real estate assets where they're part of a trust and you own a minority interest in that. But you still need a qualified intermediary. You still have to identify the property within 45 days and complete that transaction within 180 days. Just changes over that from active to passive management. So it's definitely something that's still utilized quite a bit today. And then let's move on to what is an opportunity zone. Came up at the table. This comes up all the time. You have a botched 1031 exchange. Yes, Ben.
Just a quick question. The DST still pay a 6% return?
Good question. Ben's question. Everybody hear it?
Am I stealing your thunder?
No, not at all. Not at all. So his question was, do DST still pay a 6% income? I'm going to change that word to income. It depends. It depends on the investment that you're going in, because there's a lot of sponsors that are providing DST investments. And because of the interest rate environment that we are currently in, it was pretty hard to find 6% income the last 3 to 4 years. The last DST we had in our market, prior to the one I'm going to talk to you about today, it had about 55% leverage, and it was manufactured homes, provided 6% income. That one's about to go full cycle in probably January or February. And the new DST that they'll take it, that investors can go into with that same sponsor, same kind of debt, is going to start at about 5.5%. It might actually be 5 and then grow to 6, because one of the also mandates of S2K, do not pay more than is needed by the underlying assets. That's a problem in our industry. So many sponsors just say, oh, the headline, yes, we'll pay 6. Well, are the assets earning 6? There's a lot of questions that you have to ask from a due diligence standpoint to ensure that clients' investments do not blow up. And that's why, having all the answers, I certainly don't have all the answers. I certainly lean on Roger quite a bit for a lot of our, questions like this, but there's a lot of DSTs available in the market. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, but you always have to look at what's available and what are the underlying assets generating. So the one I'm going to talk about today actually has zero debt. It's a non-levered DST that is land paying 7% annualized. So like, oh my gosh, how are you paying 7? Well, it's a bridge loan essentially to our equity investors. So I'm going to get to that one. Yeah. Okay. So with opportunity zones, that came out as part of originally the 2017 Tax and Jobs Act, right? We had a bipartisan bill, which the whole goal was to drive businesses and industry to these urban markets. And so what happened during that time is the governors of every state worked with local officials to identify the zones. And so I'm going to refer to opportunity zones in two ways. I'm going to say opportunity zones 1.0, and that refers to the 2017 Tax and Jobs Act, what we're dealing with today. Opportunity Zone 2.0 is how they are impacted. Opportunity zones are impacted with the One Big Beautiful Bill that came out in July on my birthday, 4th of July. And so remember that 1.0 versus 2.0. So one of the keys is, unlike a 1031 exchange and a DST where you have to sell real estate to defer the payment of your capital gains, opportunity zone investments are available for any capital gain. So it's not just a sale of real estate. It could be sale of stock, sale of a business, sale of a fur coat collection. Anything that the IRS deems is a capital gain can be invested into one of these opportunity zones. And if you invest in one of these opportunity zones, so this 1.0 map that was identified again by local and state officials, 1.0 map came out with a little over 8,700 zones in America that fall under the qualified opportunity zone guidelines. And so the tax benefits, so now you know the kind of capital gains that can be invested, right? Any capital gain. What are your tax benefits? Well, today they're twofold with 1.0. There used to be 3 benefits, but one of those benefits expired back in 2020, Roger, or 2021. It was either 2020 or 2021. And that one, there was a step up in your basis that was available. That disappeared with 1.0. So the other 2 tax benefits that exist today, if you invest in a 1.0 zone by December 31st of 2026, you defer the payment of your capital gains until tax year 26, payable in 27. Whoop-de-doo, that's not such a great benefit. It was nice to kick the can a few years ago, right? But now you're just like right now, if you invested in one of these opportunity zones, you're just kicking the can to pay the IRS in like a year and a few months. So one of the things I do like to say, do you have your marker? Is it up here?
It's on this thing,
Oh, I don't see it.
isn't it?
No.
I might have stolen it.
You want to clean the board?
No, it doesn't. It's okay. Y'all write this down. Right. The IRS. Y'all probably seen this, your accountants. If you push it together and you remove the space between the and IRS, what does it spell? They always get paid, right? So the IRS is always going to get paid. So the one benefit is you defer the payment of those capital gains. So now, I mean, we're sitting in 25. It's not such a big, oh, there you go, Roger. It's not such a big secret. Like what, I mean, it's a guessing game. What's the capital gains rate going to be in 26? We don't know. But essentially, you're deferring the payment of your capital gains out until, tax year 26. The better benefit, the bigger tax benefit in opportunity zones, and you all probably know this, is that if you hold that investment for 10 years in one of those qualified opportunity zones, all of the appreciation is tax free. So that's on the surface, high level benefit. Uh-oh, Ben. You okay?
I'll rebuild.
Here we go.
Good.
Okay. So that being said, so much else comes into the equation when we talk about opportunity zones. Number one, 10 years is, 10 years is a long time to be locked up in an investment. And one of the things that Roger mentioned earlier is financing on opportunity zones. So it depends on the asset. Are every one of these opportunity zone funds going to refinance and return capital? Probably not in time to pay your tax bill. One of the things that we, as I'd say a prudent sponsor, we've always said, make sure you keep a kitty of money set aside to pay your capital gains. Estimate with your advisor and your accountant, what do you expect you're going to owe for tax year 26 and keep it in a separate account. If you get a refinance paid from one of these funds, that's great. That's amazing. If it comes in time to pay your tax, even better, but don't count on it. Just protect yourself and don't count on it. That said, two of the deals that I'm going to talk about today that are opportunity zone funds, one will pay out and refinance in time to pay your tax, the other will not. And that's just where we are in the cycle of the construction projects. Another major benefit, and I do, and my founder, my partner, Steve Canner, we thank Roger every day for this, is structuring of the fund. You can structure opportunity zones as LLCs, Texas partnerships, or REITs, REITs. We don't structure them as REITs. Do y'all know why?
They're corporations.
They're corporations. So one of the things in these blue folders we put together on the left side, go in behind here, qualified opportunity zones, limited partnerships versus REITs. This is just some extra material for you. It's also on our website. But essentially, what that also gets you is all of the passive losses are passed through the investors. When the opportunity zone, when the underlying assets, which are multifamily, happen to be multifamily in our case, start generating cash flow, that includes depreciation being passed through. They are K1, so sorry they're K1s, but like for these, it's one state. These are single asset deals, but it is a K1, and it will report on the K1 the amount that's depreciated. And also because it's an LLC, what else does that mean? No recapture. No recapture. So there's a lot of additional benefits within opportunity zones aside from defer paying your capital gains to 26 and obviously in tax year 27, and then the tax-free appreciation if you hold it for 10 years. But during that 10-year time period, not only should you expect to see a distribution of some of your money back through, number one, refinance, but also you should start seeing the assets cash flowing. So it depends on the underlying investment. So like, for example, in Charlotte, we're doing multifamily. We expect, and I'm going to show you some pictures and all that, but while we're on the timeline topic, I wanted to address this, is when the multifamily apartments start leasing up, we have to pay out that income to the investors. So you will see income over the 10-year time period and cash distributions from refinancing. So it doesn't necessarily feel like a full 10 years that your capital is tied up for you. And I'll dive a little deeper into that whenever I get into each of the different investments, because the timeline is different depending on the investment that you're in and where they are in the construction cycle. So let's move forward to the next, keep going. Another benefit, let's go to the last one that says comparing QOZs. There we go. So between QOZs, 1031 exchanges, and Delaware statutory trusts, essentially 1031 exchanges, again, you are the active manager. You have, and with DSTs, you're a passive manager, both of which require the qualified intermediary, identify the property in 45 days, complete the transaction in 180. What happens if that buyer of your asset bails on day 46? What happens?
Maybe opportunity zone.
You can no longer benefit from a DST or a 1031. So bingo, Ben, you can invest in an opportunity zone because you're trying to avoid paying that capital gains tax, correct? And essentially, we're trying to solve and help you solve for that. The other thing that you are required to do in both a 1031 and a DST, and I'm going to repeat it in this context, is it's a like-for-like exchange. You do not get back your equity. You do not get back your basis. With an opportunity zone fund, you are only investing the capital gain. You get back all of your equity. Your original cost basis comes back to you. Do something else with that, right? Because what we do also find, and we have to be careful and solve for that, the majority of DST and 1031 investors are living off of the income, whether they're living it day to day or they're using it for vacations. They need the income. Opportunity zones don't throw off cash flow right away. Like, right? If this is a real estate development project, it's going to be a few years before you start seeing income. So consider taking the equity. Roger and I've worked on a lot of different cases like that, putting it into an income paying vehicle, we'll figure something out like right to cover that income. But for the investors, they do get back all of their basis, and they can then control their equity. So there's a few advantages there. With an opportunity zone fund, you are not required to use a qualified intermediary. There is no requirement to identify within 45 days. The only requirement is you have 180 days from the time that you received that capital gain to the time that you invested in an opportunity zone. Now, the 180-day clock, that starts different for individuals than corporations. So for individuals, it's 180 days from the time that you received your gain. Does anybody know the difference when it's a corporation?
K1.
You do get a K1.
Don't you get 2 bucks at the end?
You can. So it gets technical, but you very often have a lot more than 180 days from the time that you took your capital gain. You actually received your capital gain. So it just provides you a little bit more flexibility.
It bases off December 31st. If it's a flow-through entity,
Yes.
then from a flow-through entity, it is 180 days, which is generally either June 27th or
Depending on whether you got leave.
28th, depending on the lease.
I thought it took you into July.
No, it's
No.
June 27th.
Oh, it is June 27th. Sorry.
It's a magic day. I've had imprinted on my brain.
Got it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different investments that are available out there, and solving for every individual investor is really the key, because what we are seeing as we get closer and closer to that 2026 deadline, when the Opportunity Zone 1.0 map of investments expires, we're looking at projects that when will they refinance? When will they return capital? When will they start cash flowing? So that's what we're looking at. So the 2 opportunity zones that I'm going to talk to y'all about today are both real estate, and I'm going to go through each of those with you. So we can go to the next slide. I want to show y'all the 1.0 map because I want to cover Opportunity Zones 2.0. And so if we go next slide, I think it's 2 slides after this. Yeah, okay, so we can wait, I'm sorry, stay right here. I just want to point out with the Opportunity Zone, what the Opportunity Zone 2.0 bill did to 1.0 is it said those 8,700 zones that were in the 1.0 map, those zones do not expire until December 31st of 2028. The zones. The tax benefits expire the end of 26. So January 1st of 2027, if you're investing in a 1.0 map, in a 1.0 zone, you get the 2.0 tax benefits. The Opportunity Zone 2.0 tax benefits that are part of the One Big Beautiful Bill say that you get a 5-year deferral paying your capital gains as opposed to a set time in the future, like Opportunity Zones 1.0 said 2026. That was the deadline. So Opportunity Zone 2.0, you get a 5-year deferral. That's great. You also get, they brought back step up in basis. So if you're in a rural zone, and I'm saying rural with my quotations because those haven't been identified yet. The new zones will be identified mid-26 and go live January 1st, 2027. If you're in a rural zone, you get a 30% step up in your basis. If you're in a non-rural zone, which where we are in Charlotte and where we are in Cincinnati, both of those have already come out on that new map that they're not rural, you get a 10% step up in your basis. So some really good benefits in 2.0. We still benefit from the 10-year tax-free appreciation, federal tax-free appreciation, because there's a few non-conforming states where you still have to pay state income tax on that. But that's the opportunities on 1.0 versus 2.0. Do you mind just going to the next slide now? Because we put together this like timeline that shows one more slide right here. So we put this together to try to just make it a little bit easier. We got it from the opportunityzones.com website, which is actually a great resource. Another great resource, y'all are going to laugh, irs.gov. Their frequently asked questions section on opportunity zones is fantastic. It is like, it's so so shocking that it's not like legalese. It's really, really good. I go to it often. But essentially what we're showing you here is we see a potential really nice window, January 27 to the end of 28. Like we'll have 2 years to invest in a 1.0 map and get the 2.0 benefits because, and you'll see where I'm talking about. I don't think we'll have anything in Cincinnati, but we're talking about it, Roger. But in Charlotte, we'll probably have something there. That doesn't mean that there's not good opportunities, no pun intended, today. So before I talk about Charlotte, I want to talk about Cincinnati. So if you don't mind, let's go to the Cincinnati deck, the
If
Carew Tower.
Cincinnati happens to have a little bit, that would be incredible.
Yes, it would. It would. And that whole area. So how many of you are familiar with the Cincinnati market? A little bit. So you're familiar with the iconic Carew Tower? It's the tallest, one of the tallest buildings in New York. It's the tallest building where you can actually stand at the top. There's another building close by that's got like a peak that is technically taller, but you can't get that high. So the Carew Tower, this is a picture of it here. It may look a little familiar to you. It was actually, can you advance it? Go to the next slide. There we go. And keep going. We're going to go one more. Okay, here we go. This is where it's physically located. This particular tower originally was built in 1931. It started in 1929. They completed it in 1931, and it cost about $15 million to build this building. Go next slide. Let's do this, and then I'll go through what we're doing. Just so you see proximity and a little bit about the building. This is in the lobby down here, this bottom, the whole right side actually here. You can see it's like got the Art Deco, the marble floors. It's to replace this today, it would almost just be monetarily like impossible. So what we're doing here, and we partnered with Victrix Gordon. Victrix Gordon is the sponsor, and they are considered in their space masters of adaptive reuse. So a lot of developers can take a 4 or 5 story office building and convert it to apartments. That's kind of cookie cutter, easy to do. But taking buildings of this size and scale to 49 story, almost 100-year-old building and converting that adaptive reuse, there's like 4 or 5 in America that do that. And Victrix Gordon team have done over $1 billion in adaptive reuse projects. So with that, and this happens to be a historic building. So ding, ding, historic building. What does that make you think of? Tax credits.
The benefits.
So not only is this in an opportunity zone, it's lit up there in the middle picture here. You can see the Cincinnati Bengals here stadium, and the red stadium is on the other side over here. From that building that's lit up this way, all the way to the river, which separates Ohio from Kentucky. Cincinnati Airport's, by the way, in Kentucky, but it's called the Cincinnati Airport. This is an opportunity zone on this side. Directly across the street from the Carew Tower, on the other side is Fountain Square. It's an outdoor area where there are 5 million people a year come there. I was there 2 weeks ago for a forum, and we had dinner in this area with a group of like 20 of us, walked out into Fountain Square. It was a Tuesday night in October, and there was a live band playing, like acoustic, and there were families, there were older people, there were people of all ages with their dogs, like sitting out in this beautiful area. I was actually shocked, and I was pleasantly surprised because they talk about it, but when you go see it, it always makes a little bit of a better impact when you see it in person. But across the street, is not an opportunity zone. But Roger, to our point of 2.0, this is not considered rural. So with the 2.0 map, we think we may have a window there from 27 to 28 to invest. But Carew Tower adaptive reuse, we're raising the equity on that. We probably will take between $8 and $10 million more of equity, and I'm going to tell you all about that deal in a moment. That'll be finished, but some other opportunities may be available to the Victrix Gordon team. They recently did the adaptive reuse of the former Macy's headquarters, the Federated Building, which is a few blocks away from the Carew Tower, and that one is multi. They're already leasing it up at about 30% higher rents than they were expecting. And they were using the lower rents in their model to project their cash flow for the Carew Tower when it comes to market in 28 to 29. So let's go on to the next slide.
I became a Cincinnati fan.
Right? Me too. So I said it looks a little familiar. It's the first 49 stories of the Empire State Building also. So this is the same architect that designed the Carew Tower. He was actually in a fight with Pierre Dupont, who was building the Chrysler building. And he wanted to have a taller, bigger, nicer building. And so the architect had already done the Carew Tower. So he said, well, I'll just do the Carew Tower and double it in size, basically. So it is a prototype of the Empire State Building, which is kind of neat. All right, let's go on to the next slide. This shows you like Fountain Square and kind of the proximity to Fountain Square. I'm just looking on here. You see the Bengals over here and the Cincinnati Reds are on the bottom. And then let's go on to the next slide. This is about Cincinnati. I have so much material to cover, so we got a lot to cover. So keep going. I want to get to some numbers here. Okay, so these are some of the considerations. Then I'm going to show you some real numbers. But we've got the purchase price, which is you end up with a negative basis because of the government incentives and the tax credits there. The cost to build, the total cost of the project you have to consider. We have to be able to lease it up. So it definitely helps that, they've got a comp in the space, like literally 4 blocks away with the Macy's building. And then the capital structure and the financing. So let's go to the next slide. This is kind of the money slide. This is the one that matters the most. So Victrix purchased the debt. It was in foreclosure. They got this building for $18 million. Do y'all remember what I said?
It cost $18 million.
It cost 15 to 18 to build it 96 years ago. They got it for $18 million. They've already procured $38 million of tax credits and abatements to date. That's federal, state, and local, which will pay out to the investors as the sponsor hits certain hurdles throughout the construction process, which you'll see that in a few minutes on the timeline, which means we have a negative basis, negative $20 million basis. And it happens to sit in an opportunity zone. Let's go on the next slide. We're going to keep going. Okay, so when I mentioned kind of Cincinnati, it's favorable, it's supply-demand metrics there, and like who's moving there, and why is there a supply-demand imbalance in Cincinnati? There's quite a few Fortune 1000 companies that are headquartered there. Macy's no longer, because that's actually an apartment building. Kroger's headquarters is there. Fifth Third Bank is there. These are all within just a few blocks of each other. Paychex is now there. They're building, Duke Energy has a big office there. They're building a big new convention center just a few blocks away, like on the other end, like 2 blocks away from the Carew Tower. There's quite a lot of industry, that is actually driving demand. And again, it also helps that we have those comps in the Macy's building there. One of the things that, has surprised them with college sports now and the NIL, they have a lot of college athletes that make a lot of money, and they're moving into that Macy's headquarters because they put like this incredible wellness and gym facility as one of the amenities, and you'll have shared amenities between that property and this property. But as far as the underwriting of the tenants that are in the Macy's building, it's same kind of tenants that we'll get for Carew. The average income is north of $150,000 a year. So the quality of the tenants that they're getting, good credit, obviously good income there. So we'll move on. This is just showing you some of the competitive comp sets that we look at in the Carew Tower. Let's keep going for competitive rents. So here's the plan. I want to go to the next slide because I want to go through the timeline with you. So on this particular, keep going. We're going to fast forward through this opportunity zone right here, this one. Okay. So initial investment, 2026. Oh, this looks like we converted it. We converted it to a PDF, so it cut off. So on the far left, that's supposed to be 2025-6. So the initial investment, this fund will close probably January or February of next year, which is important because that's when we take the last dollar of investment, that's when your 10-year clock starts for the tax-free appreciation, okay? For this particular fund, they're planning on refinancing in 2028, 2029, and returning capital to investors. That's the time that they believe that the entire conversion from office to multi will be completed, okay? Prior to that, in 2026, sometime between middle of 26 and 28, when they hit said hurdles, is when you'll start seeing some of those $38 million of tax credits be paid out to investors. So as a percentage, so we've got the percentages like through our models is we're anticipating from everything that we've gotten from the sponsor, and that the construction's already full on, it's under construction, but all the high end like plumbing, electrical, that's all already been done. But because the building's concrete and steel already, none of that had to be redone. You've got these really great high ceilings, but they're estimating on the conservative side between both the refinance and the tax credits being paid out, about 70% of people's money will be returned to them by the end of 2029. So if you put $1 million capital gain in this investment, you should see about 700,000 of that back over the next 4 years. So that's not a 10-year hold if you think about it. And then it should start cash flowing from renting up these apartments in 2029 and generating between 4 and 7% annualized. And we use those numbers are the numbers that they gave us conservatively before they started leasing up the Macy's building.
Maybe question. I think it's important for their understanding. Is that income based on $1 million or 300,000?
Thank you, Roger. It's based on your original capital investment. It's based on your million. Your original million is going to be generating you between $40,000 and $70,000 a year from the rental income. And then at the end of
you only have 300 left in it.
And you only have 300,000 tied up.
Figure out the percentage. That's like 13+%.
Mm-hmm. I wish I had Roger with me at every meeting.
Well,
yeah, it's icing on the
I want
cake.
to tell a little story here, Amy.
Okay.
They had Charlotte first. Cincinnati came along. And Amy's boss, I think, was a little put off at me at first because I liked Cincinnati better. But I think he's come around and understands why I liked Cincinnati better.
Mm-hmm.
But at first, Charlotte was his baby.
Mm-hmm. So
it was hard to hear that I liked Cincinnati better.
And you'd already done so much for us with Charlotte. And the difference too is timing. The timeline you'll see in a moment for Charlotte looks very different. It's multifamily and it's going to be completed and start leasing up by the end of next year, by the fourth quarter of next year. So again, what we often see is people have sizable capital gains and they will split it because you want to diversify their portfolio and you want to diversify, and they don't invest necessarily the entire capital gain. You may want to pay a little bit of a tax. You're not required to invest your entire capital gain. Just whatever doesn't get invested, you owe your capital gains tax this year. There's no deferral there. So the plan here is when this fund closes, again, we anticipate sometime in Q1 of 26 that the 10-year clock will start then. And at the end of 10 years here in 2036 or later, the overall project will be sold, and they're expecting between a 2.5 and 3 times equity multiple return to investors. Now, if when they go to sell this at that 10-year clock, if it's not a seller's market, you'll just continue to receive your income. They're going to do everything they can to maximize returns for investors. That's the goal on the project. All right, so I want to go back to the other deck, if you don't mind, because now I'm going to transition over into Charlotte. And I'm going to stay on opportunity zones. So let's go to the next slide. I'm going to skip over these because we've already covered the structure. Let's skip over and go straight to that timeline slide, if you could for me. Right here. Oh, sorry, go back. Right here. Oh, I'm missing a 3. Anyway, that's okay. So the timeline for Charlotte is different because with Charlotte, we bought this back in 2021. We meaning S2K. S2K is the sponsor for this. And we are definitely closing this fund probably the end of November. We have a few investors that are just waiting on the actual capital gain event to finalize. So it might go into December, but there's maybe $3 million left to invest here. The project, and you're going to see where we are, it's under budget and actually on time from a construction standpoint. But the plan here is to refinance because the construction will be complete in late 26, return probably 30 to 40% of investor capital back to them by early 27, probably in time to pay that tax bill. But remember, keep a kitty to pay the capital gains tax. We'll do a second refinance in 2028. So we anticipate investors getting back 50 to 60% of their original investment back by the end of 2028, if not middle of 2028. So on $1 million investment, you should have between 500 and 600,000 of all of your investment back by end of 28. This should start cash flowing out from the multifamily units, passing through the depreciation again that is never recaptured, and they're estimating between 4 and 6% cash flowing on that. And then the 10-year clock will start the end of 25 because we're closing this fund the end of this year. So then the 10-year clock, when we go to sell this in 2035 or later, all of the appreciation is federal tax-free. North Carolina is one of the three non-conforming states. North Carolina, Mississippi, and California are the 3 non-conforming states. So you still have to pay the North Carolina state tax, even if you're not a resident, but if you're an investor. But the return, they're expecting the return on this fund to be 2 to 2.5 times equity multiple without any tax considerations. Did I say that right, Roger?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's look at the project a little bit deeper. Yep. So this strategy, it's residential. It's in Charlotte. Charlotte's obviously in your backyard a little bit. It's not Atlanta, which I do live in New Jersey now, but I'm a Georgia girl. I grew up in Bremen, Georgia. So I'm familiar with Charlotte quite a bit. This particular area is literally, maybe 10 minutes from their central business district. They call it Uptown Charlotte. It's weird. It's downtown. It's their central business district. And then this light rail, which is the infrastructure that they put in, is a 5-minute walk. So this entire plot here, that's the blue opportunity zone and then the retirement conversion and DST, that represents 18 acres in Charlotte that S2K purchased. So we bought this entire 18 acres a few years ago. We structured the top portion, the top 8 acres, as an opportunity zone. This is in the NODA district, and I'll talk to you about NODA in a couple minutes. Roger begged us. We spent a lot of time with legal, a lot of time. He begged us to actually put a valuation on the Opportunity Zone Fund so that investors could do Roth conversions. And I'm getting ahead of myself for a little bit, just for a second, so bear with me. I just can't help myself. Because with real estate development, all the fees and costs are at the front end. So what does that do to your on-paper valuation of real estate development? It's a J-curve, creates a J-curve. Well, we determined, even though it made a lot of sense, for investors to be able to do a Roth conversion, that the majority of opportunity zone investors are moving their capital gains, probably not from real estate, probably from sell of a business, sell of stock, and maybe they're not avid real estate investors. They probably don't want to see a negative valuation on their statement. So it's all about managing expectations. Fast forward, we've brought a Roth conversion fund into one of this orange portions, which I'm going to talk about next. So let's move on so I can dive into this one. So the plan, this is the 8 acres. So the plan is to build 350 units right here on this bottom darker shaded gray here. And then we got future use for potentially like 500 units just to the top side of that. And then the hook will be some sort of, complementary retail possible use. But what we're looking at in the entire area, and you'll see whenever I show you some slides of the photos of the construction that's been going on, is there's been a huge migration, obviously, to Charlotte. Over 150 people are moving to Charlotte every single day. It's not since COVID. It's been since like 2010. A lot of things are driving it. Number one state in the state for business, Charlotte is. It's the 6th busiest airport in the world. I'd say it to me, being a Georgia native, I think it's busier than Atlanta. It's just spread out differently, but the way that it is set up. But regardless, there are multiple Fortune 1000 companies there, and there's some of the largest and best colleges and universities right there in Charlotte. So UNC Charlotte is actually one of the largest campuses, if not the largest public university in UNC, at UNC Charlotte, the UNC Charlotte location. Let's go on. Quality of life, a lot of things are driving people. There's similar quality of life there as it is here, maybe a little closer to the beach in Charlotte, going to Wilmington, and let's keep going. All right. The catalyst, though, for the growth to the northern part of Charlotte, that NODA district, is the light rail. So they spent money on the infrastructure, which I wish Atlanta would bring MARTA closer. It just drives me bananas. Like, anyway, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir when I talk about MARTA, but they invested in the light rail. And sadly, there has been obviously some catastrophic, terrible things that have happened. And hopefully that's improving just with more, police presence. But that said, what they saw in the South End a little over a decade ago, South End is the stop just before Uptown, is the growth. I want to show y'all an overlay of here, South End in 2007 on the left versus South End in 2025 on the right. So this is the South End of Charlotte, where now, like, there's Lululemon, Trader Joe's, like it's everything you can and want to do in South End, it is there. So fast forward, what Charlotte did is they've extended, and it's complete now. That light rail now goes all the way to UNC Charlotte. I'm going to come back to that right here. So on the far end, on the other side of this Stonewall stop where Uptown is South End. Fast forward all the way here. This is about a 20 minute, I'm sorry, go back one more slide. That's about a 20-minute ride from Uptown to UNC Charlotte. So you are sitting right in the middle, Sugar Creek Station. That is the station stop where I showed you the light rails, a 5-minute walk. That is the station stop. And you are sitting right in the middle of the two busiest employment hubs in Charlotte, which is Uptown Charlotte, that central business district, and UNC Charlotte. There's also a huge parking facility at this Sugar Creek Station. There's not a lot of parking easy to find in Uptown, but there's a lot of great restaurants in Uptown. The light rail people will park here for free and take the right light rail, which costs like $1 if they check. Like, a lot of people don't even buy a ticket on the light rail. They just go on the light rail. I think that's going to change though, especially with more police presence. I think it needs to. But so let's go back one slide. I just want to show y'all. So if you see Charlotte there, proximity, South Park's down here, and then NODA's right there, and then go forward 2 slides. Then I'll get back into like NODA and America lacking housing. In general, America lacks housing. Few things. With interest rates having skyrocketed, younger people cannot get mortgages. They just can't afford it, so they're renting. So the need for multifamily is just skyrocketed. The supply-demand imbalance is extreme. So, but Charlotte also lacks housing. Multiple people moving a day. They are number 2 in U-Haul one-ways. Number 2 behind Dallas is Charlotte in one-way rentals for U-Haul. But the multifamily, if you look at the new building permits, so this is one of the key metrics that we look at is, okay, when our multifamily apartment units come to market the end of 26, what does the supply look like? Well, what they're estimating is that the new construction is going to drop by more than half by 2027. So when our 350 multifamily units come to market, there's going to be so much absorption that the new inventory is definitely needed. All right, so we'll go forward. I want to show y'all let's keep going. Project update. I'm going to show you these words and pictures so you can see what's been going on. Okay, there's 2 things also. There's development risk. With real estate development, you obviously have development risk. So we've tried to mitigate that. So you'll see we are further down the line with development risk, taking care of that with Charlotte versus Cincinnati, because Cincinnati has just started doing their construction. Now, it's not ground up construction. It's really all interior at this point. They've just got the new elevators are going in now. But with Charlotte, they've already done the parking garages erected. You'll see a picture of that in just a moment. All the underground storm and sanitary has been done. They've elevated the podiums, the wood framing is commenced, and the first units should deliver. And then from a development standpoint, see the green check boxes? You'd like to see as many green check boxes as possible to overcome those objections with development risk, because the construction is already started, and the multifamily, it's 6 stories on one side, and then where the property grades down at 7 on the other, you'll see that's up. And then when we get to lease up and stabilization, that's a year from now. So we're moving along pretty well. All right, let's go to the next slide. So let's see if this video works. Do you mind trying to just press the video? This is a video that was put together that's really just shows you an aerial view of what we expect the property to look like at completion. It may not have worked when we converted it to a PDF. It didn't. It's okay. This is also available on our website, so y'all can go and look at that. We have a live webcam on our website that also shows the construction. The problem is it's from a different view, but still, it's like a 7-minute delay. Let's go forward, and I'll just show them the pictures. So these are renderings of what the completed project should look like, and then I'm going to show you the next slide, which is this is like, look how much has been done. Roger, can you believe this? Roger was there when it was dirt. Come a long way. This over here, this concrete, that is the 7-story parking garage. And then this is the multi. Actually, I got a picture yesterday and I wanted to get it in here, but I couldn't get it in time, where they've actually already got the top of the apartments. So these are all the apartments. And you can just go through so you can see like what these look like. There you go. This right here is the courtyard on the inside. So there's that's where the pool will be. So this little courtyard for that part of the multi. And then this is the project. So in proximity of this picture, like Uptown's that way, the light rail's over here. Okay. And so this is what's going on. Those pictures were through 2 weeks ago. They were in the middle of October. Those pictures were. Project remains on budget. Everything's looking really good. And again, not only on budget, but also on time. So that's really important for making sure that those investors in the timeline get the refinance of distributions and start cash flowing pretty quickly. Okay, we'll keep going. The sponsor, this is important. I've talked to you about Steve Cantor's background, and this is our history at S2K. So we've raised money for a lot of different types of companies, whether we were the sponsor, S2K, or we worked with sponsors like Victrix Gordon, who's doing the Carew Tower. So this is just a timeline about us. And these are some of the prior transactions done by some of the principals at S2K, include Steve Cantor, knowing like the banking side of the business. But we're smart enough to know also that if you're going to do construction development, you need to hire experts. We're not in the development business. So we partnered with Abacus, Abacus Capital. We'll go on to the next one. Keep going. That's what Steve looks like, boots on the ground right here. We need boots on the ground. So our local partner on the development side, partners are Abacus Capital and Caprock. They both, when I said earlier at the very beginning, have tremendous skin in the game. They've got about $8 million collectively invested into this project. So they have a lot more to lose than the investors that are in here at a minimum investment amount of $100,000. You can see who the architect is here. And then it is a $55 million raise. And again, we have maybe 3 to 5 million left of equity. And this one is going to close probably the end of November. If the few investors that are just have a timing situation, if it doesn't close in November, it'll close in December. So this is the Charlotte Opportunity Zone Fund. I'm going to now transition over to, can I just get a time check? How much time do I have?
You're 15 minutes out.
Oh, wow. Okay. The next two are the Charlotte DST and the Charlotte Roth. So we're going to start with the DST. All right, keep going. So this property right here, there's not a whole lot to tell you about it. Let's go on to the next one. It's a land-only DST. So it's a land non-levered DST that should generate 7% annual income paid monthly. Let's go on. So what we have done with the 18 acres that we own, again, the 8 acres at the top is in the Opportunity Zone Fund. The 10 acres below it, we split it. So the property on the right is the DST. So it's like 4.8 acres, and we've acquired a 90% interest. So if you think about what we're doing at S2K is we're levering the equity that we already have. Still a passive DST. Mm-hmm.
What's the minimum investment on this one?
$100,000 is the minimum investment. It's only we're going to go to the next slide. It's only a $21 million raise. Keep going. We'll stop. I'm sorry, 23 million. Our Roth is 21. This is only 23 million. We take reservations for DSTs. That's one of the things that is important for investors when they identify the property with the qualified intermediary so we do take reservations. We've got about 12 million in reservations right now. And so we maybe have 11 million of equity. If push comes to shove and we need to pull part of the 12 is multiple investors. So we probably could take some of their equity if we absolutely needed to. But we do believe that this will close January or February. A couple of those were transactions that won't close specifically until January or February. So that's what this DST is. And the sponsor is S2K Miller. We partnered with, so you've already, we partnered with Jimmy Miller. And let's go to the next two. I think it's the very next slide. Miller Properties Group. Yeah, they've been around since 1969. Let me just show you their track record on the next slide. So the Miller Properties Group, this is some of their prior development projects. So you may be familiar with some of these, the Little Mill in Aspen, Colorado. Fox Plaza, that's the top middle there. Did anybody see the movie Die Hard? They blew up that building in Die Hard forever ago. It was that building. Miller Properties Group actually developed that building. They developed the Inn at Spanish Bay, the JW Marriott, San Antonio. So while they are great at the development business, they're not developing this project because they don't have experts in Charlotte. Abacus Capital, the local Charlotte development team, is doing the development here. But they're our sponsor on here. I'm going to go to the next slide because I want y'all to see. I hate when numbers are this small and you can't see them on the screen. It drives me bananas. So I am so sorry. That said, this is in the investor material and you can see it. But essentially, I'll tell you what these show you. On the Miller property side, they have raised money for 9 other development funds, all through friends and family. 8 of those 9 have gone full cycle and returned over 1.5 times multiple for investors. So they've been around 40, almost 50 years now. And we've partnered with them to do our S2K Miller Fund, which I'm not sharing. I'm not talking about that one necessarily today. But it's basically a GP fund where investors have an opportunity to participate in the economics at the GP level, but they're LP investors, so they don't participate in the GP risk. So that's who the sponsor is on here. And now we're going to go into the Roth Conversion Fund. So let's go to this one. The strategy here is, now this is the balance of those 10 acres, 5.3 acres, where we are acquiring a 90% interest into this property. And the whole purpose is to, the purpose for the project is to build out roads and utilities for future development. Let's go to the next slide. This is intended for IRA investments, this strategy. And you see the asset, this project is this one, tax advantaged retirement conversion here, the 5.3 acres. And we're going to go forward one more slide. Keep going, sorry. These are just some renderings on what it could look like. Keep going. I want to get to the steps. Let's go one more slide. Keep going. One more. Okay, perfect. So how many of you have done Roth conversions with clients? Okay. So obviously the goal for them is to have tax-free appreciation, right? But what's the most opportune time to do a conversion? It depends. Everybody's situation is different, right? You want to do it with a J curve. That's exactly right, Ben. So step 1, you take your IRA and you invest it into this particular fund. Step 2, the fund starts construction. That's again where all the fees come in and you should see a J curve. Step 3, your custodian will receive a valuation. They're going to receive 2 valuations from S2K. We've got a certified valuation manager that we've been working with that will do 2 valuations, one in 2026 and one in 2027. So you have 2 opportunities to do a conversion on this and convert it to a Roth. If you can advance to the next slide, I'll show you what that is looking like. They're anticipating, we're conservative again, a 30% devaluation. So you could do a partial conversion in 26 and do the balance in 27, or you could do a full conversion, just wait until 2027 to do it. And the reason I say that is right here, at the 2027, mid-2028, construction will be complete. And what's going to happen? We're going to refinance and return capital, and you should start to see this value go up, right? Well, when we do that, I'm sorry, go back one slide. When we do that refinance and return capital, that's going to happen in 2027. So you may have enough money with about 55% of your money returned to you in 2027 to actually pay the tax that's owed on your Roth conversion. So if you put $1 million in this, expected to be worth at conversion $700,000. If it's a 30% reduction, you do your conversion at $700,000. Now you owe tax on the $700,000. Remember, this is all pre-tax dollars. But now the $700,000 is it appreciates. It's an LLC, so this is a partnership. and it appreciates, and you should be out of this fund and everything returned back to you within 5 years. So we're not looking to hold this for a very long time.
Is this also a $100,000 minimum?
Yes, this is
Okay.
also $100,000 minimum. Let's go to the next slide. So the key terms on this one, it's a $21 million raise. We have about 11 million also left on this particular one. Maybe it might be closer to 12 million on this one. There's 6.3 million already has been invested by the sponsor into the fund. So that's, again, the skin in the game that's really important to us. And it is a K1 from state of North Carolina. So only one K1. So I believe, yeah, that's it. So I can answer questions. I've covered a lot. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Alston Bird. Mm-hmm. We've worked with them for many years. They did our Prakashani Hotel REIT, the very first deal we brought to the market. That's exactly right. So I covered a lot, obviously, comparing the different tax strategies where they're real estate, event driven, whether it's a 1031 exchange, a DST, or for an opportunity zone fund. Obviously that can be for a real estate sale, but any capital gain. Remember, any capital gain can qualify to invest in one of the opportunity zones. And we are super anxious to see, what zones come out in the 2.0 opportunity zone map. We're again not hopeful that Charlotte or Cincinnati, the areas where we're in, will be there, but we are looking now that that we have those 18 acres in Charlotte. And not all of NODA is an opportunity zone. That section that we're in is an opportunity zone. So we could take like parcel 1A is where we're developing the 350 units in Charlotte for the opportunity zone fund. We could take parcel 1B or 2B because the DST will be closed by then, and raise an opportunity zone fund in January of 2027 and get the 2.0 tax benefits with the 1.0 map. So because we're at S2K, because we're in the market with so many different deals, we see more deals. It's like when you're active, you see more investment opportunities, and then taking advantage of these tax codes as they evolve and being able to bring tax solutions to investors. And that's our goal, is just to be able to help investors find solutions to solve for all the different tax codes that are there. And we've really enjoyed working with Roger. He digs in pretty deep and gets into the weeds with us, and works often with our, not just our legal, but with the sponsors and the structuring teams to help us structure things that are really most beneficial to investors. And if you have, I can obviously come here and do any meetings that you'd like. The things we also do is all of the sponsors that we work with, they are accessible to investors. And I always encourage the advisors who are doing the business with the accountant, bring your accountant with the investor onto a Zoom. If we can't be face-to-face, bring them onto a Zoom, and I'll bring Anoop, who's the CEO of Victrix Gordon, or I'll bring Steve Cantor, or I'll bring one of the managing partners from Abacus to the Zoom so that you can actually hear directly from the sponsor. Because we're not trying to sell anybody anything. We're trying to solve problems for people's tax solutions. Now, our job at S2K is to do the due diligence to ensure that the sponsor's got a good track record. They've got skin in the game. They're staying on schedule. So, we meet with the sponsors minimum once a week, if not more. Like I meet with them once a week, but then the asset management team meets every single day to talk about where are you on the project, what's going on, any hiccups, anything going on. And then we report back to shareholders, usually quarterly, but sometimes if nothing's happened, like the Carew Tower just did an update in September. There's nothing to tell people probably again until the end of the year, and they'll probably do another update in January. But we're constantly trying to just make sure that we stay in front of the investors with information and updates. We keep our website very updated. So the Victrix Score and the Carew Tower portion of our website is password protected. The password is Carew Tower. It's not case specific, but the reason we've had everything else is not password protected. But the reason that's password protected, I didn't want you to be alarmed, so I wanted to share why, is because of the tax credits. And when you're going to the government, any government entity for tax credits, you don't want to show off that you've got this pretty new penny and it's beautiful and amazing and it's a great opportunity for investors. because they may just decide, well, you don't deserve the credit. It's not like a black and white rule. It's a subjective decision by humans. And so we password protected it. So again, the password's Carew Tower, but all of the information on the Charlotte Opportunity Zone Fund is on there. You have maybe the rest of this month, if you do have anybody with capital gains, whether they're in the last 180 days, maybe even already paid their capital gains tax, but if they're still within 180 days and you want to try to get them in, let me know. I am flying back tonight, but Roger knows how to get me. But it's been just a pleasure to see all of you. Yes, you have a question. Minimum investment on all of these is $100,000. We have, because they're private placements, we have accepted amounts under the minimum. I just need the investors' amount, the timing of when they're anticipating investing, and I get an official approval in writing from the sponsor. But yeah, we've taken like 50, we've taken 75, and often it's because someone maybe is splitting a gain and they just want to split it up, as long as they're accredited. Well, thank you all for having me, and Roger, of course, thank you for having me. And if you have any next steps, follow-up questions, let me know. There's fact sheets in your folders, some educational pieces on the left, and then a little bit more about S2K and these. Thank you for having me. Of course.
Amy, again, thank you.
Of course.
And thank you
again.
for your sponsorship.
Oh, of course. My pleasure. Thanks for having me. All right. Thank you. I'm racing.
Okay.